Tonight, elite government troops using armored vehicles have been brought in to control the rioting in Moscow. Tonight, a young New Brunswick girl is dead, quite possibly the victim of a murder. Tonight, it went down to the wire, but the Atlanta Braves are pennant winners again. Moscow is a city in a state of confusion. Pro- and anti-Yeltsin forces have been involved in numerous clashes all day today. Good evening, everyone. A state of emergency in Moscow has been declared, one that will last at least until next Sunday. At least 8 people have been killed in violence in the Russian city today. Ralitsa Vasilyeva has more.
Early Sunday, the standoff had entered its 13th day. Incidents of violence had been growing over the past 2 weeks. But by mid-afternoon, the scene outside the Russian White House erupted into chaos. Supporters of the Russian lawmakers holed up in the White House, broke through police lines. What was just a trickle grew into a wave, and the day's events were set into motion. Most of the shots were aimed into the air, but there were injuries. Now, with his supporters gathered around the Parliament building, the leader of the opposition against Mr. Yeltsin came out to spur them on.
Stand up, take positions on the left-hand side. Let us form detachments now and attack the mayor's office. Please be as disciplined as you can.
Heeding his words, the huge crowd, now in the thousands, marched to Moscow's mayor's office. Shots were heard again. Then, dramatically, and only a short time later, armed civilians marched defiantly from the building with its defenders in tow. And they left little doubt who was in charge. Bolstered by their success, about 1,000 armed Rutskoy supporters set out on the second phase of his command to capture Russia's Ostankino broadcast facilities just a few miles away. Mr. Yeltsin announced a state of emergency in the capital. And by dusk, he was back at the Kremlin, appearing calm. But as darkness fell on Moscow, a battle raged around the television station. Ralitsa Vasilyeva, CNN reporting.
Back in our region this evening, St. John police are investigating the possible murder of a 6-year-old girl in the north end of the city. Her body was discovered on the riverbank near her home just after 6 o'clock last night. ASN Sally Cummings has the latest information.
Police ident squads combed the banks of the St. John River looking for any evidence into the mysterious death of 6-year-old Samantha Toole. Her body was discovered by a nearby resident on the riverbank in the Robertson Park area at about 6:30 last night. She had apparently been missing since Saturday morning.
But I seen them when they brought her up out of the water last night, when they took her away in the ambulance.
The girl lived with her mother and other siblings in an apartment in what's considered an older neighborhood in the North End. Today, many of the little girl's friends watched as police conducted their investigation. They're saying very little about the case, and parents are shocked and worried.
I'm very uneasy, because you don't know whether you should let your kids out.
We don't have enough information. As I say, that's why we're all curious to find out what is going on. We don't know.
Neighbors say the family had just moved into the area about a month ago and believed the girl had been staying with a babysitter when she was reported missing. This morning, police concentrated their efforts behind the house, looking for any clues as to what might have happened. Residents say it would likely have been impossible for a child to make it down such a steep embankment. This afternoon, police went door to door questioning residents in the area. The investigation is continuing. In St. John, Sally Cummings, ASN News.
Lower Sackville RCMP have a suspect in custody following the murder of an inmate at the Halifax County Correctional Center on Friday night. 37-year-old Nova Scotia man Donald William Findlay was found dead in his cell after only arriving at the prison about 2 hours earlier. RCMP are releasing very few details surrounding the murder. Our Starr Dobson has been following this story and has come up with some shocking news from the victim's community.
Mosier River is located on Nova Scotia's eastern shore. The community may appear to be small and peaceful, but according to many residents, it's far from it. Donald William Findlay lived here with his wife and 3 children. Much of the community of Mosier River is in shock today, and although many residents know of the murder, no one was willing to speak with us on camera today about it. The reasoning behind this, many residents say, is plain and simple. They're scared of what may happen to them if they do talk. We did, however, manage to find some residents in a neighboring community who were willing to speak with us.
Not a very good situation.
A lot of residents were scared to even talk to us today.
Yeah, everybody's pretty nervous. We all kind of want to just stay neutral on the situation, I guess.
What are you scared of?
There's going to be some more scenes happening, I believe.
Have you ever been broken into?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
How would you describe the community?
Well, I love the area, you know. You just have to put up with the inconvenience. You know, what else can you do?
Findlay was serving his first day of an intermittent 2-week sentence for dangerous driving. Several people tell us he was charged after running his truck into a vehicle occupied by several teenagers who were harassing his children. Sources tell us there are several men presently in the correctional center from the Eastern Shore area.
We do have a suspect. The suspect is in custody, but there has been no charges laid at this time.
Okay, is it just one suspect who's in custody?
At this time, that's all that's being looked at this time, but there is a possibility of others.
RCMP have not yet released autopsy results. That information is expected at the beginning of next week. Donald Findlay's funeral will be held Tuesday in Mosier River. In Mosier River, Nova Scotia, Starr Dobson, ASN News.
A 62-year-old New Waterford, Nova Scotia man has died as a result of injuries suffered in a fire earlier this week. Giovanni Marcassine was seriously burned and suffered from smoke inhalation after being rescued by volunteer firemen from his burning apartment just after midnight on Thursday. He was rushed to the local hospital and later transferred to the Victoria General Burn Unit in Halifax. New Waterford Fire Chief Butch Chiasson says careless smoking was to blame for that fire. A 72-year-old Nova Scotia woman is dead and several children were injured in a collision last evening between a car and a minibus. 18 students and 2 teachers from Chester Area Middle School were riding in the minibus. They were returning from a soccer tournament in Cape Breton this weekend. The lone occupant of the car, 72-year-old Stella E. Myra of Gold River, Lunenburg County, was killed. A 14-year-old boy from Chester was admitted to hospital and is enlisted in fair condition today. The cause of that accident is still under investigation. Newfoundland Tory Bill Matthews says a Grand Bank woman might not have died if the provincial Liberals had not drastically reduced healthcare services. The woman had to wait 2 hours for a nurse to arrive from Buren, about 60 kilometers away, but she died later on her way to hospital. Matthews wants an inquiry into the death. He says the provincial government has to take some responsibility. A search is underway tonight in the Englishtown area of rural Cape Breton for 3 young people who failed to return from a weekend hiking and camping expedition. The 2 young men and a young woman, all believed to be about 17, are part of a group of venturers from the village of Bedek. A group of about 30 who were believed lost late this afternoon came out of the woods at dusk, but the remaining 3 people have not been seen. It is hoped the young people, who have some woods experience, may have made camp for the night. Over 400 fishermen, their family members, and supporters gathered in Shetticamp, Nova Scotia tonight. They're calling for changes in the way the Federal Fisheries Department distributes snow crab licenses. They want what they call a more equitable policy. Craig Boone has more.
Come go with me to that land.
They rallied with songs, signs, and speeches. What they want is for all bona fide fishermen to share in snow crab licenses and quota. For example, out of approximately 180 lobster and ground fishermen in a district along Cape Breton's western coast, 74 have crab licenses. Those who don't feel the individual quotas should be reduced and the quotas spread around.
Since the crab fishery was established as a subsidiary fishery, therefore a gap filler between our lobsters in the spring and our fall fishery, it becomes more of a need to have it now than it did in the past.
And now, right now, we have nothing, and the way things are going in these communities now, the lobsters are gone, and Brown fishing, as everybody knows, is gone for sure. And we'll be on Welfare Alley probably this time next year. We don't get any assistance.
The Area 19 Gulf region quota is over £3 million. Some crab fishermen have the potential to gross about $100,000 annually. But crab fishermen say after expenses, it's not that lucrative. One Shetty Camp area crab fisherman says he waited 17 years for a license and is sympathetic to those with none.
Well, I agree to a certain extent. I could give a few licenses out, but not the amount they're looking for.
The committee lobbying Fisheries and Oceans for a change in crab licensing policy reports that preliminary studies show that snow crab stocks are healthy.
Most of the people here say it's important to show their support for a change in federal fisheries policy, and that's one reason why they've rallied. In Shetty Camp, Nova Scotia, Greg Boone, ASN News.
Thank you, Greg. Still to come tonight, we have got your complete weather forecast for the start of the new week. But up next, ASN's entertainment reporter Joanne Nugent takes us to the award ceremony at the Atlantic Film Festival. That's when Atlantic Falls continues.
I hope that the project that I do is pleasing.
It began with one of the year's hottest films, M. Butterfly, and it wrapped up with Holly Hunter's Piano. And in between, the Atlantic Film Festival took audiences to every corner of the world and screened the best from filmmakers here at home. ASN's entertainment reporter Joanne Nugent spent much of the week at the celebration, including the big gala award ceremony.
Real hot. That's just the kind of week it was. The Atlantic Film Festival screened the best of both worlds. International films right alongside movies and videos made right here at home. Young up-and-comer Mike Clattenburg is the brains behind this music video, and he's captured some long-overdue recognition. Clattenburg was named Best New Director and captured the Moonsnail Award for Best Music Video. The Rex Tasker Award for Best Atlanta Canada Documentary goes to Speak It from the Heart of Nova Scotia director Sylvia Hamilton. And the Best Nova Scotia film this year is Folk Art Found Me, produced by Alex Busby. While other winners include Glenn Walton of Halifax for Love and Oysters, Dana Warren and Sheila O'Leary of St. John's for Sisters of Influence, and Ken Furlong of Fredericton for Under the Influence.
You know, Katie, plasterboard, which we find in many of the walls of our homes, is really an incredible building material.
Hats off to the cast and crew of Wonder Why. The children's science show produced here at our sister station ATV wins the Award of Excellence from the Alliance for Children and Television. The show, now in its 4th season, continues to challenge kids across Canada to question their surroundings and find the answers.
And by the way, the coveted People's Choice Award went to The Piano, starring Holly Hunter, while the Gordon Parsons Award for Best Kids Movie belongs to The Flying Sneaker. Well, it's not even legal yet, but the Nova Scotia government told stores they could open for business today. Allowing Sunday shopping is one of the changes introduced by the Liberals in their first budget last Thursday. But the move is not getting rave reviews. We sent our Tiffany Hussey out to see what people think of the idea.
Debt and deficit levels accumulated by the province when we took office were staggering.
Sunday shopping is just one of the things from which the Liberal government is hoping to get some revenue hopping in the province. But just after a provincial tax increase to 11%, most say the government's trial brainstorm on shopping won't work. What do you think?
Personally, I'd prefer to be at home, but if the business is there, we'll try it for a while, see how it turns out.
Saturday, Sunday is, you know, it's a day of rest for everybody, and that's the way I feel about it.
I don't feel it's a good idea. I think businesses these days, especially the past 2 years, can't survive on 6 days alone, so I think the 7th day is not going to hurt it. I mean, businesses are going to be paying out for their employees.
Most people we talked to said that Sunday shopping was something they weren't too keen on. In fact, many said they prefer to be home with their families on Sunday, a day of rest.
But then again,
well, as a student, I need the money more than I need the rest.
I have always been in favor of Sunday shopping, actually.
Why?
It's just for the freedom of shopping if you wish.
Yeah.
That's why.
What about with the state of the economy? Do you think that a lot of people are going to?
I can't see where that would have any bearing on it, if it's Saturday or Friday or Sunday.
So I figured while I was in the mall, I'd try my eye at shopping for something special. And hey, it worked for me. One area of concern for many is how Sunday shopping will affect Sunday flea markets, which have also been hit by the budget with a surtax on rented tables.
The only thing that's going to help, but I think in the next little while, is going to be the bazaar that we've had in the mall, with the people coming in for that. But that'll be it.
Both the consumer and retailer told us today that it's going to take a while for them to get used to the idea of being able to buy clothing and such on Sundays. But they say the real test will come to see if the economy can stand an extra day of shopping. In Halifax, Tiffany Hussey, ASN News.
Of course, Amherst, Nova Scotia sits just across the border from New Brunswick and serves as a regional retail centre. You'll recall that Amherst retailers protested mightily when New Brunswick instituted fall Sunday shopping 3 years ago. Well, today feelings were mixed about Amherst's first day of Sunday shopping.
First Baptist Church in Amherst.
Give us this day our daily bread.
For this congregation, Sunday is not just another day. It may be business as usual elsewhere. Here, Sunday is the Lord's Day. Some of these people will, nonetheless, go off to work after the service because they have no choice. And that's the topic of this morning's sermon.
Just as there was no room for Mary and Joseph in the inn, there's no room in society for Jesus. He's been replaced with materialism.
Later, members of the congregation agreed that Sunday shopping has to go.
They have to work nights and weekends, and there's a lot of times when the husbands are off that they're not available to be off. They're not able to go to the functions that the kids have as well. They're not able to go to church.
We still have to keep our family day. There has to be a day set aside so that family can be guaranteed to stay together.
The question for retailers is, does opening on Sunday pay? And most of them will tell you it doesn't. In this store, employees seem to outnumber the customers today. Some stores don't open. Some independent owners feel forced to open, but don't like it.
We've had a lot of browsers. People aren't really parting with the money, but they're in looking.
But there are also some exceptions.
I was actually surprised. We're doing quite well. I really don't have any other Sundays to compare it to, but I'm pretty happy here today. Yes, we're doing fine.
Shoppers were ambivalent.
People who don't like Sunday shopping don't have to, and those who do should be able to.
You get Sundays off, we should have that for a family, not to have to be stuck into a store.
Retailers here will only know later, when they count the receipts, whether it was all worth it. In Amherst, Ron Shaw, ASN News.
The Atlanta Braves have claimed the National League West pennant, and although they won their game against Colorado early this afternoon, they had to wait until just a couple of hours ago to know that they were the division champs. Sports News is up next. Atlantic Pulse continues.
In there safely, and Terry Pendleton has driven in his ninth.
After winning game number 104, the Atlanta Braves waited and watched, and finally, on the last day of the best pennant race in years, the San Francisco Giants cracked. The Braves won their third straight NL West title today, but it didn't happen until 3 hours after their 5-3 victory over the Colorado Rockies. As they have each day this weekend, Atlanta went ahead early and put pressure on San Francisco. The victory gave the two-time NL West champions a 13-0 sweep of the Rockies. That's the first time this century that an NL team swept a season series from a rival. The San Francisco Giants, meanwhile, who started the game tied with the Braves and could have forced a sudden death playoff tomorrow with a win this afternoon, lost to the Los Angeles Dodgers 12-1 this evening. The Braves will meet the Philadelphia Phillies for the NL Championship beginning Wednesday, and of course that will be played in Philadelphia. Over in the National League, the Toronto Blue Jays made history today with an offensive display that showed why they ran away with the American League East title. Joe Carter became the 25th Major League player to homer twice in one inning. Carter connected twice against Ben McDonald in an 8-run second inning that helped lift the Blue Jays over the Baltimore Orioles. Final in that one was 11-6. CFL action. The Toronto Argonauts have moved into a third-place tie with Ottawa for the final playoff spot in the CFL East. The Argos edged the Rough Riders 17-16 today at the Sky Dome. Well, the NHL exhibition season wraps up tonight with 3 games on the slate. The Washington Capitals, with a record 4-3-1, take on the Ottawa Senators, 1-5-1 in Thunder Bay, Ontario. The Canadian Olympic team is in Edmonton to take on the Oilers, who are 2-4-1. And the Anaheim Mighty Ducks, 1-2-1, are at home to the San Jose Sharks, who have a record so far of 2-3-1. And Rusty Wallace gained a little more ground on Winston Cup points leader Dale Earnhardt, taking the lead with 100 laps to go this afternoon and holding on to win the Tyson Holly Farms 400 stock car race. Wallace took 10 more points off a deficit, which in the middle of August was 324 points. He now trails Earnhardt, a 5-time NASCAR driving champion, by just 72 points with 4 races left this season. Well, after a cool, damp weekend for most of Atlantic Canada, many of us can look forward to some clearing skies and milder temperatures over the next couple of days. Your complete weather forecast is up next when Atlantic Pulse continues. Just before we get to the weather, they were hitting the mark for a good cause today in Dartmouth. About 85 people gathered for the 8th annual Nova Scotia Darts Against Drug Abuse 24-hour Dartathon. 15 teams started playing darts 10 o'clock yesterday morning. They wrapped it up around the same time this morning. About $8,000 was raised for the province's drug dependency service.
Because of the hard economic times, I think what we're doing is even more important, because now people get more depressed. They're going to have a drink, or they're going to turn to booze or drugs or alcohol. And they're going to need our services more, and we just want to reach out and help.
Because this year was such a success, it is full steam ahead for a 9th annual 24-hour Dartathon for next year. Time now to take a look at the weather forecast, and it looks as though the weather patterns will remain unsettled in Atlantic Canada for at least the next 24 hours or so. Tonight, for the Maritimes then, the weather will be unsettled, to say the least. Cloud, fog, and scattered showers and thunder showers are to be expected all across the region. In addition, clearing skies in the north once again brings the threat of frost to New Brunswick. Newfoundland and Labrador will also share in the unsettled weather. Temperatures in Newfoundland will be mild, but a fair bit colder in Labrador, where some flurries are expected tonight. Tomorrow, the weather patterns will continue to remain variable throughout the maritime region. Sun, cloud, and showers are expected. Temperatures will be in the 13 to 16 degree range. Newfoundland and Labrador will also share in the cloud and showers. Temperatures will be mild on the island and cool throughout Labrador. The long-range outlook for the Maritimes calls for sunshine and cooler temperatures on Tuesday and Wednesday, with some cloud and slightly milder temperatures expected on Thursday. Probabilities of precipitation 10, 20, and 40%. Newfoundland will have better weather with cooler, more seasonable temperatures for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, although it will be cooler. And finally, for Labrador, the weather will be wet and cool on Tuesday, but more sunshine is forecast for Wednesday and Thursday. The temperatures will stay seasonable, which is in the single-digit range throughout. And that, in a nutshell, is the Atlantic Canada weather picture. And finally tonight, I go Zoom. At least that's how a 3-year-old Florida toddler describes his half-mile midnight joyride Friday night. During the trip, Mikey Spruill hit 2 parked cars before smashing his parents' Mercury into a car on a busy highway. Mikey can barely see over the dashboard, and he can't even reach the pedals. Police are still trying to figure out how Mikey managed this stunt. As punishment, by the way, Mikey's parents are taking away his favorite toy, a meter-long, battery-operated truck. That'll teach you, Mikey. There you have it. That's our show for tonight. Stay tuned for the program Beyond Reality up next, followed by Movie Television at 11, and then our late-night movie presentation, Lady Hawk, beginning at 11:30. For all of us at ASN, thanks for watching, and please have yourselves a very pleasant evening.